is my overpopulation IMP. My research question is, to what extent could overpopulation negatively affect social, environmental, and ethical trends in first and third world countries, and what are some viable solutions? So after some research, I came up with a claim that overpopulation is a major threat to both first and third world countries, and it is along with its few viable solutions, will collectively disrupt modern social, environmental, and ethical trends across the world. So for a little context on overpopulation, overpopulation is a condition of having a population so dense as to cause environmental deterioration, an impaired quality of life, and a population crash. This problem spans across nations, first and third world, and this issue is on the rise with the world's population skyrocketing. Overpopulation fuels major issues such as extinction of species, deforestation, and loss of fresh water. Our planet can only hold around 10 billion people, and we're already at 7.5 billion, so we don't have much time left to solve this problem. So the overall significance is summed up really well by George Cialis, founder of the website called Everything Connects. He talks on how overpopulation, along with other prominent issues, can and will cause species extinction. So his quote is, "If present trends continue, scientists warn that within a few decades, at least half of all plant and animal species on Earth will be extinct as a result of climate change, habitat loss, pollution, acidifying oceans, invasive species, overexploitation of natural resources, overfishing, poaching, and over-human population." End quote. So you see here on this graph, as human population goes up, more recently in the modern era, up to 50,000 extinctions have happened, all the way up to there. So one counter-argument is displayed by Ross Emmett, and he is an associate professor of political economics, and Ross believes that we as humans are too creative, and to underestimate our creativity, that we won't come up with a new technology or we won't solve a problem with new market incentives, is very ignorant of people. And his quote is, "The second neo-institutionalist argument is that human ingenuity will often offset a few adverse effects of population growth. Simon argued," which is who he's talking about in this, "that people are the ultimate resource because of their ingenuity. The neo-Malthusians underestimate the creative power of humans. Technological change will ensure that production keeps pace with population. The population trap is no trap at all because humans creatively respond to market incentives, expanding the resource base available for productive uses." Which basically summing it up, he's just saying new market incentives and our strong economy will solve all our problems, which I think is a very ignorant stance to take on an issue this big. And this cartoon really sums it up by saying that nothing is to blame, and that it says here, if you spend more than you, nothing bad will happen to you ever. So an example of overpopulation from the stimulus packet is from Mark Montgomery in Source D, where he talks about how overpopulation is on the rise, and he sort of gives a really good rebuttal to this ignorant idea by showing the absolute urgency of the issue. His quote is, "During the period 2000 to 2024, the world's total population is projected to grow by 1.76 billion persons, with some 86% of this growth expected to take place in the cities and towns of developing countries. This extreme incline in global population is why we need to act fast. But what can be done to stop overpopulation and save the world as we know it?" So one solution is urbanization, which is the process of building more cities, usually to support a bigger population, making it the natural and obvious solution to overpopulation. However, this has a few drawbacks, and according to Mark Montgomery, a population research expert, smaller cities are generally less well prepared with basic services than large cities, such as improved sanitation and adequate supplies of drinking water. Rates of fertility and infant and child mortality in small cities or mortality in small cities can be a little different from the rates prevailing in the countryside. End quote. With that said, urbanization looks far less appealing, and when looking to use it as a primary solution, the morals of it just don't check out, as third world countries will not be able to keep up. And in first world countries, it also causes more natural disasters and environmental issues. As you can see here by this graph, the urban population is skyrocketing, and as of around 2010, it overtook the rural population in America, or actually across the world. So another solution that could be looked at is the one-child policy that was implemented in China. At first, this may look like a quick solution to overpopulation, but there are some serious moral drawbacks and negatives that really don't check out with this solution. These immoralities are called out by Harry Wu, who is a Chinese-American social activist, and Harry meets and talks with a Chinese woman who worked at the Planned Birth Office in this quote. The quote starts saying, "During her 14-year tenure in the Planned Birth Office, she witnessed how many men and women were persecuted by the Chinese Communist government for violating its planned birth policy. Many women were crippled for life, and many of them were victims of mental disorders as a result of their unwanted abortions. Many families were ruined or destroyed." Gao, which is the mother he's talking to, with tears streaming down her face, told during her testimony of how her consciousness was always gnawing at her heart. End quote. So, looking at this solution in more depth shows that millions of forced abortions are happening for Chinese women, and as you can see here on this graph, at one point during the one-child policy, the average birth rate of women in their lifetime was 1.5 children, which means that half of women were having 2 or even more births in their lifetime, meaning that's one more abortion or one more serious fine placed against these women. In conclusion, this solution does not check out. So, one solution that could work that is moral is educating people. And this can also be the safest, most effective, and the most moral solution of all. Educating young women and men on abstinence and contraception and what it really means to actually raise a child is essential. Tyler Anderson, one of the main writers of the Lantern OSU student in his paper, says that we can't force people to stop having children. It simply wouldn't be fair. Instead, we need to educate. We need to spread awareness regarding the consequences of overpopulation, and we need to teach people what it truly means to raise a child. And with this, I come to my solution. And it should be a requirement by law in every state to have a sex education on abstinence and contraception implemented in the schools. Students should be told how challenging and expensive raising a kid can be, and this is already a requirement in 17 states, so why not more? Some possible limitations could be the cost of it, and there's no telling how much this would really do to stop overpopulation.
Okay, so 2 questions for you, Connor. The first one is, how did your research question evolve as you moved through the process, and then did it go in a different direction than you had originally planned?
So initially I was only looking at first world countries that were being affected from overpopulation, and I realized that this is a very complex and broad issue, and that would really cover everything. And I looked at how in third world countries, like in Africa and some in Asia, are actually being very negatively affected, more even than first world countries, by this issue.
Okay. And then that was different than what you had
mentioned? Yeah.
Okay. So then the second one is, how does your conclusion respond to any of the other research or resources that you examined?
So I examined a conclusion by Ross B. Emmett that I used in my counterclaim, actually in my presentation, and I realized that there's so many ignorant people out there that didn't actually realize that this issue is happening. Similar almost to like President Trump and climate change and other people that, like, if an issue is put on your plate, you should actually do something and not just ignore it when facts are everywhere on the issue.